Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: what was the most fucked up thing to come out in stores that's now discontinued? Fake snow made from asbestos. They also made tinsel foil that was strips of lead foil. Kids used to chew on them and many pets died from them. My grandma 100% still has oodles of this in a box somewhere. Pets can die from tinsel that doesn't contain lead, too. The problem is linear foreign bodies, basically any string-like object that dogs and cats can swallow. The object can get stuck and cut through their intestines, which, as you can imagine, is not good for them. You should be very careful to keep anything string-like away from your dog or cat. Diet pills from Sears catalogue in the early 1900s. The first pill was a tapeworm egg. The second pill was a drug to kill the tapeworm. You'd take it when you reached your desired weight. Holy shit, that is crazy. Crazy smart. This existed in Victorian England too. I saw a documentary on it and they got a guy to test the process to see if it would work. He was certified by a doctor to say that it was safe. He ate a piece of meat that had been deliberately infected with tapeworm eggs, kept a video diary of his experience and weight loss, then took the pills to kill the tapeworm and was absolutely fine at the end of it. He'd lost about 30 pounds / 13 kilograms and was happy with the whole process. He said the worst part was that because he did it for a documentary he had to collect the tapeworm afterwards. He took the pill to kill it, which causes the tapeworm to break off from your intestines and come out in your poop, but he had to poop into a colander for a few days to make sure he caught it when it came out. He washed it off and lay the thing out in the garden to demonstrate it was taller than him. I hate that I read this. Creed sold it to me. It's from Mexico. That wasn't a tapeworm. There was a product called the worm getter in the 80s, basically a rod that shocked the ground outside your house that for some reason caused worms to come out of the ground so you didn't have to buy them yourself. Yeah, there was about 30 deaths attributed to this thing from people shocking themselves and it was recalled. It was around in the 70s at least, because I remember using one right after rain, standing on wet grass and feeling a pleasant buzz on my bare feet. My dad just built his own with an extension cord and a metal rod. Stick it in the ground and plug it in. There was a doll with an eating function that ended up eating young girls' hair. The seller also failed to include how to turn off the doll in the instructions, so you can imagine the horror stories that went down because of that. It was a Cabbage Patch doll. I remember my cousins getting them for Christmas. There was no off switch. The eating was triggered by putting the food in their mouth, which was little rectangular pieces of plastic that looked like carrot sticks and other vegetables. It continued eating until the food was all the way in and then turned off. Problem was once it got a hold of hair it kept chewing and the hair would get caught in the gears and stuff inside the head, and it wouldn't stop because it still sensed food in the mouth. I wanted one so badly that I had dreams about them. I'm kind of glad my parents never actually bought me one. I had it happen to me. I shoved a toy in it so I could get my hair out. It was my cousin's as well, she got sky dancers too, those were wild. I'd forgotten about all the cases of kids getting damn near scalped by those until you mentioned it. Here's one news story about it from 1998. There was that vibrating Harry Potter broom for kids. How does that even make it to the fucking shelf? So, I have this idea. A vibrating broomstick. You know those things you put between your legs? Interesting idea. What's your target market? Children. A vibrating broomstick put between the legs of children. The innovation is tremendous. I'd buy my daughters 5 each. When my brother was like 1 year and I was 16, he had this toy caterpillar. Each foot of the caterpillar was a letter of the alphabet, and it had 3 settings. The first setting was just for the letter. The second setting was for how the letter sounded, and the third setting was a musical selection. Anyway. Being a bored teen, I had it set on the second setting and tried to get the toy to say fuck by sounding out the letters. So I'd press the F foot. FFU foot. And then as I press the K foot, the toy will giggle, and say, that tickles. Before it'll end with KK. It doesn't do this with any other words sounded out. So some toy developer out there had to stress that some child might inadvertently learn to swear from their product and designed a feature to prevent that from happening. And I discovered it, lol. Edit, I'm glad to know I wasn't the only one that tried getting that caterpillar to swear. Similar squiggle pens. It was a big pen that vibrated when you used it to make your handwriting all squiggly. Just a dildo you can write with. Oh shit. My dad got me one of those giant multicolor pens as a toy, you know, the kind with like 12 different plungers to select which color you want. Well, it was large, thick, purple, and shiny. My grandma asked him if it was a dildo. During the First World War, department stores, including Harrods, sold kits containing syringes, needles and tubes of cocaine and heroin. It was promoted as a present for friends on the Frockley shoot-up to make life in the trenches more bearable and alleviate the horrors of war. I mean, honestly, if I had to fight in World War *1, I'd use anything available to me to diminish suffering. That was a scary, nasty, horrible war for soldiers, trauma up the wazoo. Oh sweet mom sent cocaine. I'd like some too if I was stuck in a trench with my foot rotting off me. Many shoe stores used to have fluoroscope X-ray machines for customers to see how well their foot fit into the shoe they were trying on. They were often unshielded and were highly radioactive. I can't be the only one that pictured the scene in the book, It, by Stephen King. The one time Mrs. Casbrook's paranoia was actually justified. LMAO. Anyone remember those twist braid machines for kids? You'd stick 2 strands of hair, stick one in each prong, and press the button. It'd twist the individual strands, then twist them together, and you'd use those bead clips to hold the braid together. Friends and I lost a lot of hair in those days. Those are prized by crafters, hand weavers specifically, for twisting yarn into fringe. Does the original Four Loco count? We had a Four Loco night when it first came out. It was the most drama-filled party I had in college. I think we would have been better off just doing a bunch of bath salts. Haha, I remember drinking some of that while fishing with my brother. We ended up fist fighting because of an argument over if China could beat the USA in a war. That was a wild night. It should. I was in college when that stuff became popular. All of a sudden it was everywhere and things escalated quickly. At least I think they did, I can't remember. I think everyone of the right age just has a Four Loco colored blur in their memory around that time. Edit. Please keep your stories coming. Nothing like waking up the next day and feeling your kidneys throbbing. Thanks for HTE memories, Four Loco. My friends and I used to call drinking this stuff going off the grid because you weren't going to be reachable for a while. My ex and I called it the breakup juice, and kept 2 cans in the fridge in case we ever wanted to duke it out. There was an energy drink called Buku Energy that's cans looked entirely like Four Loco cans. In middle school, we would go to the liquor store, ring up Buku, tell the guy I got the wrong flavor, then go back and get a Four Loco. Imagine 13 and 14-year-old kids drinking them. We also found out we could get the largest Slurpee cup available, place a Mike's Hard Lemonade or Four Loco can inside, and cover it in Slurpee. Then we'd pay $2 for the Slurpee and have our can inside. I think my personal favorite was the Atomic Energy Lab, a children's toy that came with actual U-238 and the tools to measure it. The kit also had instructions for how to prospect for uranium ore in your own backyard. I work in radiation safety. While I do not condone children being near any radiation at all for any reason, 238U is an alpha particle emitter. Alpha particles are attenuated by skin. Alpha particles are so weak they can be attenuated by a sheet of paper, actually, and therefore generate almost no radiation exposure to our internal organs, making external exposure basically negligible. If it were ingested, however, you're in for a bad time. Edit. To all the people saying things like good thing kids never eat things they aren't supposed to, yeah, I realize that, and I haven't even spoken to the fact that 238U is toxic, too, not just radioactive. I made this comment because of the stigma around radiation and to educate people. I am not attempting to say that this product was a good idea to give to children by any means, and there are other issues with it besides the radiation element. I know all of this, I don't need informed. I would prefer that you just understand that I am speaking to the radiation aspect of the issue only, because that is the field I am educated in, and because of that I am able to provide that knowledge to the general public and avoid misinformation. I'm a radiation expert, not a biology expert, so that is the subject I would prefer to address in this situation. AIDS. It was a diet candy that became popular shortly before HIV became widely known. Their slogan was "Get Slim with AIDS." One executive refused to change the name of the company, saying something like, "We had the name first, why can't they change the name of the disease?" Edited for errors. came here for this one. It was actually AIDS, until that it was around in the late 1930s. I thought it was introduced in the 70s, turns out that's just when it caught on again due to the re-emergence of the diet craze and marketing. My grandfather had a kit for kids to make their own lead soldiers. It came with the mods for the soldiers, a bunch of ingots of lead, and a cooking pot to melt the lead in. Then the child could pour the molten lead into the mod, wait for it to cool, then play with their new toy. What fun! The amount of lead and mercury that got casually played with by kids before about 1980 or so is really quite astounding. My dad grew up in the 70s and remembers his mother melting lead in an old frying pan so he could play with it. They'd also fool around with mercury when a thermometer broke. No, my dad wasn't abused or raised by morons. That's just how it was back then. People didn't think anything of that stuff,